Hey, everybody. Welcome to Disney with the Ducks. Thank you so much for joining us. Today, you have me, Gene, Jody B.
Hi, friends.
Jeff.
Hey, everybody.
Kevin.
Hi, y'all.
And we have our friend Audrey with us today, too.
Hello.
To get things kicked off, I'll tell you in a minute kind of what our topic's going to be tonight. But before we kick that off, I'm just curious, Ducks, what did you do when you were in college? Tell me more about what you did as far as a college job or jobs. Jody, what did you do?
Well, believe it or not, when I was at school, we had this really unique scheduling. It's not like this anymore, but they were off from Thanksgiving until New Year's. So we were on the quarter system back then. They're now on semesters, but we are off all the way from Thanksgiving until New Year's. And it started that way because of World War II and coal and things like that. And then it just kind of stayed on. So I had all Christmas season to go home and work, which was great. So little old me, who's all of 5'1.5" on a good day, I went to go work for UPS as a driver's helper. So I was in the brown truck and I was with this burly driver, and he would give me a NordiTrack and say, go run it up to that house. And he'd come back and pick in the snow and sleet and rain and all that good stuff. And I was a driver's helper. I delivered packages, and he was awesome because he was like, listen, all these other drivers, they're going to go take breaks during the day. They're going to go to lunch. They're going to do all this stuff. We don't do that. We don't stop and eat. We don't stop and do anything. I'll add 2 extra hours to your paycheck every single day if we don't stop and eat. If you can eat a granola bar between stops, you'll be good. I'm like, all right. And apparently he ran through driver's helpers. Nobody liked working with him because he was so difficult. And he requested me back, and I worked with him for two different winters. So it was a lot. I made a ton of money because they paid really great. And I was in great shape because I was lugging all these packages everywhere. It was a really hard job, but I liked it. It was pretty unique. So
that's cool. Wow, Jody.
Yeah. See, never knew.
Never cease to amaze me.
Yeah.
What about you, Jeff?
I was in college starting in 2000. So my first college job was working at one of those little cell phone kiosks in the middle of the mall, just at the rise of the cell phone population boom back in the early 2000s. So my classes were on like Tuesday, Thursdays. I'd work Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and kind of worked out nice long days just sitting in the mall all day by myself. But I was one of the first pushers of cell phones in the mall back in the early 2000s.
Wow.
Right?
That's fun.
Right?
So what was the popular cell phone? Like the most popular one?
Back then were the old Nokias that had the little faceplates that popped off that you could put the different ones on.
Nice.
Right?
My mother-in-law swears that apart from her bag phone, that the Nokia that she had is the best reception she ever had.
Probably. Those things were tanks.
Mm-hmm.
They had really good antennas on them.
You didn't need to put a case on it either. You could throw it against the wall and
exactly
nothing happened to it.
Yep. Don't have to worry about screen breaks, nothing like that. Mm-hmm. Had Snake on it. You could play Snake all day.
Snake. I remember Snake. Kevin, what did you do in college?
So being an engineering major in undergrad and grad school. So for undergrad, I worked as an intern / summer field worker doing inspections on asphalt and concrete and putting concrete and asphalt down, inspecting guardrail metal, inspecting pipes and culverts and, this and that. Basically everything you drive over, under, or in. I mean, I inspected it and as it was going down and made sure it meet the specs that were required to be accepted, I guess. And, testing concrete is probably the most fun because you actually make up cylinders and then you take them and get them broken. And then you try to see how much PSI that they can handle before they break and stuff like that. So it was definitely relevant to my degree. So, and then in grad school, I was a research assistant. I did research for transportation research and I was a teacher's assistant. So I taught some classes.
That's awesome.
That's cool.
You'd be a good teacher.
Jody and Jeff, I'm a little older than y'all. So Jody, while you were at UPS, I actually worked for the Pony Express. And then Jeff, I worked with on the telegraph line.
Nice.
You and I are actually closer in age than I am with Jeff. So you forget that.
No, I worked, I stopped at night at Kroger for a bit when I first started college, and then a friend recruited me to go make the real money delivering pizza at Mr. Gaddy's. So I did that for a couple of years, and another friend recruited me, a fraternity brother. We were just ingrained in the Budweiser distributorship in South Louisiana, and so a bunch of fraternity brothers worked there, and I got recruited to go there, and I threw beer at night, stacking, loading trucks and chip trucks, because back then Budweiser owned Eagle Snacks. And then when I was not in school, I would either work on beer routes as a helper, or I would run potato chip and snack routes for people on vacations and things like that. And then right at the end, the casinos came to Louisiana, and I went and bartended for a bit. So all in the beverage industry, food and beverage for the most part. Audrey, you are a college student.
Yes, I
So
am.
we're going to talk a little bit about jobs, a job you've done while you're in college. Have you done anything, or do you do any other work besides what we're going to talk about tonight?
Yeah, so right now I'm working at our alumni center on campus. So I just sit at the front desk, answer the phone, all that kind of good stuff.
Yeah, well, that's good. That's good. What can you share what school you go to?
I go to Louisiana Tech University in Ruston, Louisiana.
All right. Ruston, I didn't mention where everybody's from, but we live in Bossier City, Louisiana, which is about an hour or so from Ruston. So a lot of students from here end up going there, and it's a great school. Great school. And your parents went there too, right?
Yes, I did.
Have you picked a major yet?
Yes, I'm accounting major. So I'll graduate. We're on the quarter system too. So I'll graduate in March with my undergrad.
That's awesome.
Yes.
So first thing I was going to get you to do, Audrey, is to share a little bit. So today's, just to let the cat out of the bag, today's show, you'll probably get it from the title, but today's show, we're going to talk about, Audrey has done the summer program at Disney World. And so we're going to talk about that. But before we do, Audrey, can you tell us just a little bit about yourself? You've told us where you go to school, what you major, and anything else you can share about yourself.
Yeah, I'm from Bossier. I'll graduate in a couple months. And like I said, do accounting stuff. And then I'm actually staying in Ruston to get my master's in accounting.
Mm-hmm.
So big numbers, girl. But yeah, I think that's pretty much it. That's the gist.
That's good stuff. Well, thanks so much. Can you? I don't want this to be just 20 questions. We'll ask questions, and guys jump in as we asking. Hey, you know what? This can go both ways. If you want to ask us anything, that's fine too. You probably don't, but if you wanted to. But Audrey, can you tell me your background with Disney? What is your relationship? What is your experience with Disney World, or in just Disney in general?
Yeah, so I grew up going to Disney World. I think my first time was when I was 3, and my parents joined the vacation club. And so ever since then, each of my siblings, I have a little brother and a little sister, but they both got to come with me. And that's just kind of been like our vacation spot. We've never really been beach people or going anywhere else. We just always went to Disney, which was super fun. So yeah, we've loved it as long as I can remember, been going. And then I ran in Disney, like I guess all of y'all too. Mm-hmm. I did the half marathon my senior year of high school with my dad. He's a big runner. So that was one thing that we got to do together, which was really cool. And then I've also been a couple of times with my dance studio and just like performed and done stuff with that. So yeah, we've been a lot. We love it. So yeah.
That's awesome.
What's funny about that, Audrey, is that you probably don't remember this. This is so many years ago, but you were a lot younger, and your family and my family and the Jeff Coates, my wife's former business partner, we were all at dinner together one night. And I remember her dad and my wife's business partner's husband were going to run after dinner because they were training for, I think, the Disney Marathon. And to me, I'd never heard of that before. I didn't know anything. I'd only been to Disney World a couple of times in my life at that point. And I thought that was the most ridiculous thing in the world. And now look at where we are.
I still think it's ridiculous, Gene.
I still do think it's pretty ridiculous, but yeah.
Which half marathon weekend did you run, Audrey?
It was in January. Gosh, that's been forever ago. We did the Princess 5K one, like one time when I was probably in middle school, so that was a really long time ago. But I can't remember what it was.
So tell me, what inspired you to do the Disney College Program? What made you interested in that?
Yeah, so like I said, my family's always been, and then I've always kind of like heard about it. My dad had like a coworker whose daughter did it, which that was like a super long time ago. So I've always kind of heard about it. Me and my sister always thought that that would be so cool. Never really looked into it. And then when I got to college, my great grandbig and my sorority had actually done it. And so we got to talking about Disney. And so she kind of explained to me her experience, and that kind of piqued my interest again. And then never really acted on it, just kind of thought about it, had that in the back of my mind. And then I guess it was January of 2022, I came across like a couple TikToks where these girls were doing it, and they were doing like a day in the life. And I was like, oh my gosh, like that looks so fun. Cause I was like, I'd heard about it, and I really wasn't really sure like how much it was and if it was really something I wanted to do. But then these really cute girls were doing it. I was like, oh my gosh, they look like they're having the best time. So I applied, got accepted. And then the way that it works, it's like you log into this thing, fill out all your stuff, and there's like all these different steps. But they send you like, once you get accepted, they send you like a list of all of these dates. So ranging from like 3 months to 7 months, and anywhere in between. So you can pick all these different programs. Well, all of them kind of conflicted with my school schedule, and I'm involved on campus, and didn't really want to take away from like what I had in college. And so I just kind of brushed it off, was like, well, that really stinks. That would have been cool, but it didn't really work out. Didn't really think anything else of it. And then in March, me and my mom and my sister went to Disney, just like a little girls trip on spring break. And once again, I was just kind of like, oh, this is so fun. Like, I think I actually want to do it and like get serious about it. And as soon as I got home, I had an email from like the Disney College Program admissions saying that they had just opened up some new program dates, and so you could apply to get your application reinstated. So after like I think 2 weeks, if you don't respond to your acceptance, then it's kind of revoked. So I applied to get it reinstated, and they ended up having a summer program. And so I was like, oh my gosh, that's perfect. And then I was doing it, and I was in it, and ready to go.
So you were there last summer 2022?
Yes, last summer, from May 23rd to August, I think it's like middle of August, maybe like August 15th, somewhere in there.
It was literally your summer break from school.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it literally lined up perfectly. So,
Just how many weeks was the program, the total program? Was that your question, Jody? I think she's unfrozen now. Okay.
So mine was like 3 months. That was like the time period. But like I said, it can range up to 6 months, 7 months. And then also when you get there, if you decide like you want to stay, then you can extend your program to up to 12 months. So after 12 months, you can extend, but you can like go home and then come back as a program or as a college program student, or you can stay and work like part-time or full-time.
So whenever you start out the application and stuff, do they ask you questions about like what you want to go into, or do they kind of place you?
So it's completely random. And went through, they had taken out the phone interviews. So the way it works is like you go in, and it's just kind of like a basic general application, just like work experience, kind of like your resume almost, and you put all of that information in. And then from that, they give you either like it's called a web-based interview. So if you can make it to that round or not. And so when I made it to that round, it was basically just like a personality test where they just kind of ask you different, like literally personality test, just to kind of gauge like how well you work with others, what you're interested in, all those sorts of things. And then now they have what's called a phone interview. So basically somebody from the admission side of things will call you and kind of get a feel for who you are, your personality, if you would work well with others, that sort of thing. Just kind of another step to see. But like I said, when I went through, I didn't have to do that.
And just something about Audrey, just so you know, like I've known her and her family for a long time. She's very involved in her high school, an officer in clubs, and active in a lot of different things, dance and just different leadership things. And the same thing, like, I don't know, apart from your sorority, but you were in leader, or you have been, or you are in a leadership position with your sorority as well, right, Audrey?
Yes,
Yeah. So involved in a lot of things, and so it makes a lot of sense that you do well in the end.
the phone interview was something that they ended up bringing back just because it's hard to get a feel for somebody through a personality test. People can lie and say different things. And so with the phone interviews now, I wouldn't say they're more strict, but just kind of, especially like when placing you, it is kind of random, but it's also like if you're maybe not the best, like talking with guests and they don't really see that when they talk to the phone with you, then maybe you'll be put in a place when you're more like behind the scenes working somewhere else.
Working in the kitchen or something.
Oh, I actually interviewed a full-time position back in 2016 when I was looking for a new position. And that was one of the coolest interviews I've ever had. It was a phone interview. Very creative, very, just different. So that's why I asked, because I didn't know if they were the same way with the college program and asked a lot of really interesting questions and things like that. But
So was it just a talking on the phone, or was it a Zoom or video call?
It's just a phone call.
Just a phone call. Okay. Just curious.
Audrey, I maybe should have asked this in the very beginning, but overall, if you could describe the college program in just a few sentences, describe it to us and tell us like what the purpose of it is, or maybe even what your purpose of why you wanted to be involved and what you felt like you were going to get out of it.
I wouldn't say I'm like sheltered at all, but definitely. And then going somewhere like Orlando, where just people from all over the world, and especially in the college program, kids that are international students. And so kind of being thrown into an environment where I'm getting to know and work with and be friends with people from literally all over the world. And then also just learning so much about myself and like my independence and the way I'm wired and stuff like that, which is also really cool and something that I wasn't really expecting to get out of it. Because you are by yourself, I was however many miles away and not with my family. And so, of course, in college, I'm away, but I'm an hour away. So it's not too far. But there, like, you're really like by yourself and kind of have to put yourself out of your comfort zone.
So one of the questions I had, and you're kind of leading into that, is what were living arrangements like? Did they assign you to roommates, and how many were there? What did that all entail? Because if you're there for 3 months, but some other people were there for 6 months, and how did that all work out?
Yes, so it's all done in this platform. It's called Dorms. And so that's when you do all your application and everything else. But so when you first get accepted, you pick your dates, and then I can't remember how many months out, but you have the option to like submit rooming preferences, I guess you could say. So everybody lives at Flamingo Crossings, which is actually a brand new facility. They opened it right after COVID and everything, and it's really so nice. And so safe too. There's 24-hour security. You have to scan in, scan out with your card. Any guest that comes in with you, they have to show their driver's license and information down. There's cameras. Put in your preferences. So there's 2x2, 4x2, and then 4x4. So every room or every apartment, I guess, has 4 people in it. So you could either be 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom, and you're sharing a bedroom and a bathroom, which that's what I did. And that's obviously the cheaper option. And then 4x2, you have your own bedrooms, but you share bathrooms with on your side, and then everybody shares the living area. And then 4x4, everybody has their own bathroom and bedroom. And then everybody shares a living area. And it does come with a full kitchen, oven, refrigerator, microwave, a few pots and pans and things like that, which is really nice. Especially, I was only there for 3 months, but especially for the people that were there longer, to kind of make it more homey, I guess. There's all kinds of like Facebook groups. And so before I like did any of that, I kind of did my research. And there's like categories of like how much each Like if you're getting paid this much is going to come out of your check for rent every week. And so just kind of like gauges all of that so you can see. And then also for roommates, kind of who else is looking for somebody, what their preference is. And a lot of people match through those Facebook groups and stuff to get what they want.
That's what I was going to ask. Is the income that you're making while working there substantiated enough to cover the rent and still be livable and be able to enjoy your time there as well?
Yeah. So, I mean, you're there to work. As fun as it is, like you're there to work. And so you definitely get your hours. I can't remember how many hours a week is like the minimum, but you have to work. I can't remember how many it is, but whatever it is, you have to work that amount, and it won't let you, like your schedule or whatever, it won't let you trade shifts or give away shifts if you're under that limit. So you have to work that however many hours, and then your rent is taken out of your paycheck and you get paid weekly. So, and then your rent comes out weekly too. So, which is also kind of helpful if anybody like leaves or it's called terming. But if somebody does that, then it's that week. So you're not like paying rent at the beginning of the month and then having to wait till the end or whatever. It's all on a week by week basis.
That's nice.
And then if somebody leaves, you're not stuck covering their portion of the rent, right? Like, so
right,
someone, yeah, that's nice. So if like someone leaves for whatever reason and they were one of your roommates, in a typical housing situation, the rest of you would have to try to figure out. Yeah, that's great. It's nice that they do it that way.
Yeah, and then also, I know you mentioned something about like dates and stuff, but typically when you're trying to match with the roommate on the platform, like the dorms website, it'll only let you match if you have the same move-in date. So you can have different move-out dates, but your move-in date has to be the same just to kind of keep traffic all together.
That's nice. Would you describe the living arrangements and the way it worked out for you? Was it positive for you, Audrey?
Oh, for sure. Actually, 2 girls from my sorority ended up going with me. Well, not with me. We all just kind of decided it happened and worked out to where we were all going to be there. And so one of them, her name's Anna Grace, but we had the same move-in date. So we got to live together, which she ended up leaving about a month and a half into it, but that never filled. So basically we were in a 2x2, so sharing a bedroom and a bathroom. And after she left, nobody ever moved in with me. So I had that whole room and bathroom to myself, which actually worked out pretty nice. And like you said, I wasn't having to cover her portion of the rent or anything. It was just myself.
That's good. That's good.
So what was your job when you got there? Describe what you started out doing and how the training went when you first got there and as you're going through that process.
Yeah, so I'll kind of start with the training. But so you move in on a Monday. Everybody's is set up the same. Move-in day is Monday. And then Thursday, you kind of have like an orientation with all of the kids college students that move that Monday. And basically you're just kind of learning like Flamingo, which is like the area, kind of some safety things, like just like your general orientation, how to get like your blue ID, just some different resources and stuff like that, all just like basic general information. And then that Friday is what's called Traditions. And so Traditions is really special because that's when you kind of learn like the magic behind Disney. So any Disney employee ever has had to go through Traditions. And that was probably one of my favorite things. But you're doing all of that with the people that moved in with you. So you're all kind of going through the same thing, trying to meet people and that last and whatever. And then you have the rest of the day to do whatever. So a lot of people would go and take pictures at Disney University or whatever. And then at the end of Traditions, you'll get your name tag. So, and then the next week is when you would start like your individual job training. So that typically starts with each park has like a training specific to them where you learn the ins and outs of that park and like why things were built certain ways and the architecture and the meaning behind all of it, which was really cool. That was like one of the most shocking things to me is like nothing is unintentional, like everything is there for a reason. Like I remember one of the first things they said to us was like when you walk in Animal Kingdom, like you don't see anything at first. You're kind of having to like walk up the hill, like through the trees, through to where you can see like the tree of life. And as you're doing, like the whole purpose, like when they built it, was so that you would kind of leave whatever happened to you before you got to the park. If somebody cut you off driving, or you woke up late, whatever happened, you were having to walk and kind of slow yourself down to get to the entrance of the park, to kind of take a moment, reset. And then once you got in, it was like, okay, like now you're in nature, and that sort of thing, which was really cool, and something I didn't know. But each park kind of has that training set up, and kind of like where first aid is and all that kind of stuff, just to kind of help you best equip guests.
Did you know your job before you got there, or was it assigned to you like once you were there?
Yeah, so everything is on like a need to know basis, and you don't find out where you're living, who you're living with, what your job is until like less than a month beforehand. So first you find out like your living arrangements, and then you'll find out the category of your job. So attractions, which is obviously like working rides and stuff like that. And then there's like food and beverage, which is all the quick serve, fast food that you would get in the park. There's also merchandise, so working in all of the shops, outdoor vending, which is the outdoor beverage carts that sell like the ice cream and stuff.
Popcorn.
And then like hostess. There's all kinds of different categories. So you'll find that out. And then probably, I would say maybe a little under 2 weeks before your move-in date, you get like a specific area. So mine was Animal Kingdoms and attractions. So which that was the Dino-Rama area. So that was like the Boneyard, and then Triceratops Spin, which that's where I actually worked, which honestly wasn't too excited about, but it worked out perfectly. And honestly, best case scenario. So that was great. But until I got my training packet, I didn't know if I was in that section, if I was in Nemo, or if I was in like the dinosaur ride, because all of that is technically Dino-Land attractions. So you don't know until you get there, really, like specifically what you're going to be doing.
And did you request attractions, or did they put you in attractions?
I think we did like a preference thing, like maybe like a top 3 when I first applied. But like I honestly couldn't even tell you what I put. And typically none of that is taken into consideration. It's all kind of like random, which now, like I said, with the phone call interviews, it is a little bit more intentional. But everybody says it's so random and you can't predict anything. So I guess I just kind of got lucky.
So, hey, Audrey, you said that was the best case scenario for you. Tell me why. What was good about it? What did you enjoy about it?
So, in a lot of parks, Magic Kingdom, for instance, sometimes is open until 2:00 in the morning. Long days, long hours. And so Animal Kingdom, we close before every other park because of the animals and stuff. So we would close at 8:00 every day. And so the latest I would get off was 8:45. And the earliest I would have to be there is like probably like 5:30. So I had a good time where I could be off. And there were some kids that would get off at 2:00 in the morning and then have to be there at 6:00. So by the time you finally get home, get to your room, get settled, you're having less than 2 hours of sleep before you have to go catch the bus to go to work or whatever. So, and just the people I worked with, leadership in a lot of different areas can kind of vary. Some people don't really like it and actually really enjoyed the people I was working with and the leaders we had in our area. They were super helpful and actually cared. As a college program, obviously like you're come and go a lot. You're not permanent, you're a temporary employee. And so a lot of them in other areas don't really take time to learn your name or learn who you are or where you're from. And so in my area, that was something that they were intentional with, just trying to figure out, if I wanted to stay and work for the company, what I was there for, why I wanted to come, just get to know me, which is something that I really enjoyed, and kind of got to build relationships with the people I was working with, which was really cool.
That's cool. That's
I don't know,
cool.
Audrey, maybe you'll be the next CFO of Disney. I mean, you keep with your accounting and you've got the DCP behind you, just go up those ranks.
I don't know. We'll see.
So when you
Hey,
were assigned Dinoland, are the people just pretty much assigned to that thing for the entire program, or can you put in to move to different sections if you want, or are you just kind of stuck there?
So they really don't move you unless like something happens. They're like you're pretty much stuck, which is why a lot of kids, or not a lot, but some kids will term and end their program because they don't like where they're working. And really the only way you can get out of it is if you have like a dietary restriction and you're working with food and you can't be around whatever you're cooking or whatever you're doing. You physically can't be there. Or maybe if like you can't stand on your feet all day or you can't work an attraction because of X, Y, or Z, whatever kind of like a medical condition, it would have to be for you to be able to get moved. So once you
Dinosaur
get
allergy.
a place, yeah, once you get a place, you're kind of stuck.
Yeah, that's good. One of the things, Audrey, we talk a lot about on this show is food. And so I think I'm curious. Tell me about like, what did you eat? Park food? Did you eat Disney food? What did you do as far as meals?
She didn't eat it all, Gene. She went 3 months with nothing.
She
Yeah.
lived on Mickey Bar for 3 months.
Lonnie would love that.
I think
We would probably do that.
my son was trying to live off the soft serve ice cream on the cruise ship for those 4 days. So he
Mickey
was
bars and fish and chips.
Yeah.
There
fish
you
and
go.
chips.
Yeah, so I cooked a couple of times, but just because like
A
timing
couple times.
and like working late and stuff, I wouldn't always have time to go to the store and get stuff and whatever. A lot of the stuff I ate was like mac and cheese, pop it in the microwave, stuff that was easy. And then when I would go to the parks, I would eat the park food. And you actually get a cast member discount. So I think it was like 25% off on all food. So that was really nice and came in handy, especially because Disney food can be kind of expensive, especially when you're eating it
25%
a
off
lot.
is still
Yeah.
expensive.
Oh, for sure. For sure. And then I would go to Disney Springs a lot, just like with friends and coworkers. And then I would also just go off property about like 8 minutes away from where Flamingo is. There's I think it's the Bronson Memorial Highway, whatever. I don't know if y'all know where that is, but there's like, I think there's a walk-ons, a Chewy's, like there's a Target, kind of like a main road that has a bunch of food options on there. There's like a Chick-fil-A. So I would go there sometimes just like before work and stuff.
Did you have a car?
Yes. So not all the kids get to bring their cars, and it's all like kind of first come, first serve. So I think it's probably a month or so before your move-in date, you get an email that parking passes are going to go or like be released, and it's like the first 150 kids that move in on your date. And so the first time I did not get one, which really stunk. But then we ended up getting an email that they were going to open up another parking place, kind of like across the street. And so I applied for one there and then ended up getting it, which thank goodness, because I kind of felt like I had more freedom. I know some of the kids that I would work with, they were kind of stuck. They do provide like transportation. There's like 12 different routes. And so on the different routes is like all the resorts and parks and anywhere that you would need to go to work, and then there's like one that takes you to Target and like a general area where you could get some groceries and stuff if you need it. But other than that, you're kind of stuck. So I really lucked out having a car. And I honestly kind of think I made a lot of friends because I had a car, because people would want rides to and from work. Because if you're working at whatever time and the bus drops you off late or whatever, then that's on you. And you don't get, like, you'll get in trouble for it because you can't be late. So having transportation that you can rely on was really helpful. And then, like I said, friends would love rides. So that was nice.
It's like being 16 again, huh?
Yes, it was.
As far as free time stuff, was there anything you did that was like just when you'd been there before, had been short term? I would imagine you hadn't been there for 3 months at a time before. Did you do anything else in the area you just, had never thought of doing before, something new, unique, something just interesting that you hadn't done before?
Yeah, so I will say most of what we did was like Disney stuff just because we were
Mhm.
like, we're here.
Right.
And we were there. You're working a lot. So
Mhm.
your days off are few and far between.
But by a lot, what do you said you didn't remember the minimum, but what was a typical week? I actually have written
So
down, schedule. Like what how many hours of work a week you think you typically worked?
I kind of want to say like at least 35 hours a week, 40 hours a week, but a lot of kids are working 60 hours a week.
Mhm.
Um, like I said, really hard hours if you're at bigger parks that have like big after parties and
Mhm.
special ticketed events that go into the early hours of the morning. Um, but in a 7-day week, you're guaranteed 2 days off. So I would kind of always schedule my days to where like I would have a couple of days when my family were in town or if I had some friends come in
Mhm.
or whatever, I would kind of match my days to fit their schedule. So sometimes you get your schedule and you're working 12 days a week, or not 12 days a week, 12 days in a row, and have your days off Sunday, Monday, work 12 days, and then your next days off aren't until whatever that would be.
Mhm.
So lots and lots of work, but yeah.
Did DCP members, could they, you mentioned that a lot about parks, but did they work in resorts also?
I was wondering that too. Yeah.
Yeah, so you can be placed anywhere on Disney property, which was kind of shocking to me. There's something called costuming, so that's where like every Disney cast member gets their costume and what they wear to work each day. So there were actually a lot of program students that were placed in costuming, so you're not even getting guest interaction. Your guests and clients or whatever are cast members, which is also kind of cool. And I got to talk to one girl actually who had an interesting perspective, just that like being a cast member can be kind of tiring, making magic for other people. So to get to work with cast members and kind of make that magic for them and help them in a way that they might not have gotten otherwise was kind of special to her. So that was something that I thought was interesting.
That's
But
neat.
yeah, you can be placed anywhere, resorts, lifeguards,
Oh yeah.
anywhere on Disney property, driving the monorails, all kinds of stuff.
What was the worst job that somebody had? You don't have to tell me names, but
Ooh.
what was a job that someone that you knew had that they were not too thrilled about?
Um, Goodness, I don't know.
Did anyone have to do janitorial stuff?
Oh yeah. There's people that do that, which, as not fun as that sounds, like I know I was like, if I get that, I'm gonna be so upset, and I don't even know if I'm gonna be able to go. But there's like so many opportunities for you to like be intentional with guests in other ways, and so you kind of just have to make the most of it. And so as not fun as it sounds, you can find a way to make it fun. But I think the worst job that I know somebody that had that role was not just because of what they were doing, but just because like the people in their area, lots of turnover, leaders who didn't really care about you as a
Mhm.
program kid, and then shuffling French fries around. That's not always super fun. So yeah, just stuff like that. Not really anything like where the task you're doing isn't fun.
So when you worked in Dino Land, did you have like a carte blanche thing that you can make magic if as you see fit? Is there like limits to what you're allowed to do? What was kind of like some of the rules that went along with that? If assuming that you're allowed to talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say that there's like any restrictions. I mean, obviously, you can't go handing around coupons for people to get free ice cream and stuff like that. But I worked in the boneyard, obviously, so that's obviously a big playground, and the whole Dinoland area. Even with Dinorama, that's like one of the only, or Triceratops Spin is like the only rides that little kids can ride because you can be a 3-month-old baby and sit in your mom's lap and be good to ride. And so with that, a lot of kids will be like super excited and want to ride again. And then in the boneyard, they would like want to go to the top of the slide, but their mom maybe didn't want them to go up there by herself. So you could be like, "Oh, I'll go up there with you, and
Oh,
watch you slide down, and make sure you get to your mom and kind of keep an eye on them." And then obviously kids would get lost. So that was always special. Like they would go over to the digging area, and then their moms would be like, where's my child? Where's my child? She's this tall and wearing a pink shirt, Mickey ears, whatever. And so then you'd go over there and get her, and then her face would light up when she saw her mom because she was lost too. Just stuff like that, just getting to be intentional with the kids and like them running around. And a couple of the friends that I worked with, we kind of had like a running joke of like, it started this one kid had a little Spider-Man on his hat, and we were like, oh my gosh, do you know that Spider-Man's on your hat right now? Like he's right there. And they'd be like, what are you talking about? But then the kids, like anytime like somebody had a Mickey on their shirt, we'd be like, dude, Mickey Mouse is on your shirt. What the heck? How'd you get that? And they'd be like, what? And they'd get so excited. But just like finding ways to kind of be intentional with the kids and make sure they were having fun, because that is like one of the only things, especially like little kids, not being able to like ride big roller coasters and things. So just getting to do that kind of stuff with them.
Fun.
Well, I just can't imagine getting paid to be able to do that. You know, that's, if you ever go to Disney World with Lonnie, you don't know Lonnie, but Lonnie is usually on this podcast, and that's Disney World with Lonnie, and you're not working there. It's just having those kinds of conversations with people. It's fun, and it's to me anyway, it's rewarding, you know, just to make people laugh. And I just can't imagine being paid to do that every day. I mean, I do it for free all the time, but you know, I mean, getting paid to do it, you know?
Yeah, and I think that was like one of my biggest takeaways. But like, you can enjoy going to work. It doesn't have to be like a chore or something that you dread doing. Like, I actually woke up every day and I was like, oh yeah, I get to go to work and love on kids and make sure they're having fun, which is something that I wasn't really sure, because like not looking forward to going into the workforce and not really sure what I wanted to do. But getting to just know that like it could be something fun and rewarding, and not just like a job, you know.
So now that you worked in the college program, do you have like preferential hiring ability? Like if you want to go back and go full time now, once you graduate, will they give you preference at all for that or no?
Not really. I will say it's like easier to go part-time or full-time straight off of your program. But whenever you like do start working for the company, you don't get to count those months and years as an employee. So you might have been working at Disney for 7 years, but one of those years was as a college program student. So technically to the company, you've only been working for 6 years. So the only way you get preference is if you've go straight into it from program. So like if I were to go and apply right now, I wouldn't get any kind of special treatment or anything.
Audrey, you've talked a little bit about this, but was there anything else that was really surprised you about the college program? Was there anything that just blew you away or you were not expecting, you know, good or bad, either way?
Yeah. I think like one thing was, and I don't know if it's surprising, but just like the cast members are people too. So like, sure, they're like happy and whatever outside, but then like when you go in the break room, they're like actually struggling and like real world things going on, which is obviously something that I knew, but actually like being around them and like being in that environment was something that I would kind of like almost like a reality check, which was something that was interesting. I remember the first day that I was like on site and actually in my area with my trainers in Dino Land. And we were doing all these things. And I just remember people thinking like, these people aren't that special, you know, like sure, like they're happy, but they're not like, you know, it's not like a normal cast member when you walk into Disney World and they're like, whatever. And so I was kind of like discouraged and I was like, dang, this isn't that fun. Well, then right before we were going to clock out, there was a penny on the ground and it was on tails. And so she like leaned down and then put it over on heads. And so she was like, some kid's going to find that tomorrow and be so happy because it's like a penny. And so that was something I was like, wow, like cast members are really there to make the magic and make guest experience so much better. So that was kind of a special moment for sure.
Audrey, I had a chance. I didn't attend it, but I was working for a company, and they brought in Disney. We had a meeting in Orlando, and they brought in Disney to do like a seminar, a workshop, a day-long seminar. I was not in the position to go to that. But I got promoted to the position right after. And so all my friends told me about it. And they said one of the things that they emphasized was that at Disney, you leave backstage.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if that's a term you heard. I found it very interesting because there are only two companies I can think of that, if you go through McDonald's and you say, "Hey, how's it going?" Somebody's, you're likely to hear, 2 more hours, or, Walmart, the same thing. If you go to Chick-fil-A, you're not going to hear that. "How are you doing?" "I'm doing great. How are you doing?" At Disney World, everybody's always doing great. And their point is, people don't want to hear about, Cinderella's boyfriend problems or whatever it is. You don't want to get off the broken ride. Yeah, right. You don't want to get off the ride and have to walk through and see the stormtroopers and the rebel people smoking cigarettes together, right, Kevin? That actually happened to us on Rise of the Resistance.
Yeah, it was the first order officer. Yeah.
Yeah, first order. They were smoking together. It was just the wildest thing. The ride broke and they took us back behind everything, and it was just funny.
Wow,
We saw the dark side.
We saw the dark side a lot. I mean, that trip. A lot of different ways. Everybody got sick at different times. Yeah. We had broken rides, missed races. It was crazy. But that's the only time I've ever seen backstage at Disney. And so I just thought that's kind of cool. But I do love that about Disney World, because that's what draws people to it, is that magic. You never don't see the magic. Everybody always is. You use the word intentional many, many times. I love that word, because everybody's so intentional to make sure that it's such a great experience for people. And that's why people pay extra to go eat.
Well, and speaking of that, that's something that we talked about.
Whatever. Go ahead, Kevin. I'm sorry.
That's something that we talked about a few times here recently, is how much more, since COVID is gone now, that cast members have really seemed to have stepped it up a lot. I think we've all kind of seen that in recent trips to Disney. And I mean, it's just, the magic is back. I mean, it really feels like it is. So
I didn't see it, but like, my wife took my daughter for a cheer trip, and it was right after COVID. And it's like the magic was lost for a minute there, when they were trying to figure that out. And it seems like they sort of lost, sight of what they've done well, but it seems like it's all back, except for registering for races. Everything else.
That's IT, man. That's IT. They're always backstage.
That's right.
To your question, Gene, about leaving backstage, I did the Keys to the Kingdom tour a couple weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
And that was one of the things they showed us going through Magic Kingdom, is you have your 2 yellow lines of, this point, you're almost ready to go on. By this point, you're on, ready to go as you're coming back into the parks. Does all the did Animal Kingdom have that as well, where you're getting close to being to where you're in the view of public on stage? So you got to be ready by this point, and from that point on, it's like you're already in roll, even though you're not technically seen yet.
Yeah, we definitely had not like specific points, but just kind of like rules. If you're walking, so my entrance that I came through was over like by Restaurantosaurus, so I would walk kind of like by Dinosaur all the way down to the side, and then where like you keep walking, and then Triceratops spin, and then Boneyard, and then my break room was like kind of back towards Nemo. And so kind of a good stretch walking while not working. And so like you're not on your phone, you can't have your headphones in. If you're wearing like a backpack, it has to be like on your backpack. And you have to have full uniform, name tag on, everything. And just, being there to help, even though you're not on the clock, just in case somebody asks questions or needs help or whatever.
You also mentioned that you planned some of your time off when your family was in. Did you, with that program, do they give you like an allotment of tickets, or do you have like discounted tickets, or how does that work?
So cast members get in, or I guess cast members are different than college program, but for the college program, you get a free park admission, so you can get in whenever you want, however many times you want. You still have to have park reservations. So that was kind of like the only drawback to that. But other than that, you can get in whenever. And then when you first get hired, you get a new hire ticket. So one free admission with a park hopper for a guest. And then whenever that gets used, you have to be able to show your blue ID, which is just like your ID to get in all of the parks, or not the parks, but like backstage. And then I think it's after 30 hours, or not 30 hours, maybe 100 hours, I think you get 3 free park tickets. And then however, I think it's like 20 or 200 hours, you get 3 more park tickets. And then 100 more hours, you'd get 3 more park tickets.
That's how they
and
keep
then
you on the hook.
yes, and then it's like nine total in a year, so no more than that.
So are any of y'all thinking about going back to college to enter the program for tickets for free admission, Jeff?
I think I'm done, Gene.
You're done? Okay. I just
But
wanted
this will be up Riley's territory. She has talked
Yeah.
about this for years.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Audrey, one of the things you said, I wrote it down because self-development, professional development is important to me. You said something about what you learned and what you especially learned about yourself. And I'm curious, is that something that you can share? And if so, I'd love to hear about it.
Yeah, I think just like I've always kind of been pretty independent on my own. Like obviously lived with my parents and then came to college, lived with roommates. And I wouldn't say I'm a introvert, but definitely like require time to be by myself, and just kind of like regroup, and not be with people all the time. But through that, I kind of learned that I do need people and need community, and how important that is. Especially I mentioned earlier, kind of like not the culture shock, but just kind of like not everybody's from small town Louisiana. A lot of people go through a lot of stuff. And so kind of being in all of that and seeing people's hurt, and just like the way I grew in my faith, and just like with the community I have back home, and then kind of being taken out of that, and kind of really having to be independent in that, and grow in that way. And then just to come back, and realize the value of like community and friendships, and people that are like-minded and kind of push you. So yeah.
That's good. Thank you for sharing that, Audrey.
Of course.
What about from a standpoint, like I don't want to use the word negative, and I'm gonna, but was there anything that was disappointing? Anything that you wanted to get out of it that you didn't, that if you did it again, maybe you'd do differently, or anything like that?
Yeah, so I wouldn't change anything. Like I loved the whole thing, and like there were definitely times where I like called my parents bawling my eyes out because I felt so alone and by myself and wanted to come home. But thank God I didn't, because I pushed through and made it, and it was all for the best. But like I said earlier, I went with 2 girls from my college and sorority. And so when we got there, we kind of relied on each other to be friends and kind of hang out with each other. But the work schedules are crazy. And so they would be working and I would be off. And so I was by myself. And then I would be working when they were off. So we really didn't get to hang out all the time. And I didn't like push myself as much to go and meet people and all of like the welcome events and stuff that they have when you first get there. And that's something that I definitely regret, because after they left, I was kind of by myself. And so I kind of then had to backtrack, and branch out and meet new people. And that's kind of when I got really close with all of the kids that I worked with. So I will say, like, after 4:00, basically all of Disney World is ran by college program students. It's like all the part-time and full-time people aren't there anymore. They clock out around 4 or 5 o'clock, and the rest of the night it's college kids. And so those shifts later in the day, you're working with all of the college program kids. So you're getting to work together and hang out, which is really cool. So that was a time when I really got to learn about them and hang out with them and hear about where they were from. I worked with one guy who was from Canada. And so he's French Canadian, and we got to hang out, had a good time. But going back, I wish I would have branched out more at the beginning, and made those friendships beforehand. Because right when we finally got close, it was time for all of us to leave. So
Yeah.
And 3 months is not a long time. I mean, it seems like it when you're there and you're lonely and you don't have any friends, but then when you get to the end of it, it goes by, you realize it went by so quick.
right, and that was one thing that I was kind of like, I'm only here for 3 months. Like, I don't need to put down roots and make super deep friendships because we're going to leave soon. And so I wasn't really worried about all of that. But then you kind of have to be, because you need people and you need community. So
I think that the lessons that you're sharing with us are so incredibly important. I know when I used to hire people on my team, I would look for work experience and things they've learned and grow. And you're just saying so many things that I feel like when you go for a job interview after you graduate, you're going to have this plethora of experiences, and I'm sure from school too, but to rely on to say, well, when I was in the Disney College Program, XYZ happened and this is how I handled it. And so I get that you weren't, doing accounting per se, but you had work experience working with others, dealing with others. And, you can't control who you go to work with when you graduate school. I mean, you're going to work with great people and not so great people. That's just the way that the companies are. So it sounds like you have a lot of wonderful experience to take with you when you go on your your next career path.
For sure.
Yeah, that's one of the things when I first started working. One of my trainers was like, any interview you ever do again for a job, all you're going to talk about is Disney, because they see that on your resume and they're like, oh my gosh, like, tell me about it. And then one question leads to another. And that's what you spend the whole time talking about it, because you do learn so much and grow so much personally and then also professionally.
I had a boss one time that had done the college program, and when people found that out, that's all everybody talked about. I was like, Jeffrey was goofy. Jeffrey was goofy? I don't even know if he was goofy. That's what everybody said.
Hey, that would be a fun job.
Wouldn't it?
Come on, Gene. You have to say he was a friend of Goofy.
Right. Hey, Audrey, so I think I know the answer to this, but would you recommend this? Like, Jeff's got a daughter that is interested in this. Jody's got a daughter that's interested in this. I got a daughter that, and Kevin's got 2 sons. I got a daughter that I think it would be such a great experience for her. What would your recommendation be for this? Yes or no?
Yes, 1,000%. And I would just say, like, kind of advice for anybody thinking about it, is to just go in with the open mind. Join the Facebook groups to get to know people before you get there. So then you there's all kinds of like group me's and Snapchat groups of people who, like, everybody wants to meet people before they get there. So do all of that, do your research. But then also, if you see something about the place you're thinking you're going to work is terrible, the leaders aren't fun, what you're doing is awful, don't trust it, form your own opinion, because you never know what could happen. So but yeah, just be open-minded, and you're there to work. So buckle up.
Buckle up. I love it.
Thank you so much, Audrey. It's been a pleasure to get to know you and hear all about your experience. You're just a delight, and I appreciate it.
A pleasure to get to know you, Audrey.
I just said thank y'all so much for having me. It's been great getting to know all of you. And if any of your kids or whatever have any questions about wanting to do it, I'm happy to answer questions and talk to them and encourage them. So just let me know.
Nice. Thank you so much, Audrey.
Thank you. That's very sweet.
Of course.
It really has been great. This has been a great show. And like I said, I've known Audrey for a long time. So, I mean, I'm just so proud, just hearing all these things, these grown up things. You're growing, it's just so cool. So neat. So this is the part of the show. I think I told Audrey, this is the most important part of the show. Our favorite part of the show, maybe some people's, I think in my house, when I tell the jokes that we tell here, it's, I don't think this is their favorite part of it. But our favorite part, quacking up with the ducks. And so if you got a joke, we want to share it. But let's do it. Jody, you got something for us today? You gonna make us laugh?
Well, I don't know if I'll make you laugh, but I do have something for you. So, we've been talking to Audrey about her experience, the DCP, and I just got off the Disney Wish. And so I was talking to some of, I guess they're not cast members, they're crew members on the ship. And I was like, hey, what's it like working on a cruise ship? I mean, this seems pretty cool, right? Like you're here, like this is, the ocean is your backyard. What's it like working on a cruise ship? And my favorite guy, Nicola, looked at me and he said, it's got its ups and downs.
Jeff, you gonna make us laugh today?
Probably not, but looking into some of this college program stuff before we had her on, I was kind of doing some research about jobs and stuff when you're in college. And most jobs, when you're in school, will pay you while you're working there and going to school. Except for the University of Tennessee, they don't pay any of their students. Do you know that? They're all volunteers.
They are all volunteers.
There you go.
Kevin, that should have been your joke.
I know, right? Kevin, what you got for us?
Yeah, so if I wish I would have done what you did, because that's very impressive, and I think it would have taught me a lot of good things. I think if I had to pick a place to work, it probably would have been Haunted Mansion, because of the ghosts. But being able to train to be a ghost and being able to stay in shape. Do you know how ghosts stay in shape?
No.
They exercise.
Oh. I'm sorry, Audrey. I'm sorry.
No, I love it.
Audrey, did you prepare a joke for us?
Yes, I did. Mine's not as elaborate, and I don't have as much of a story. It's just
It's
a
all right.
question.
It's all right.
Why is Peter Pan flying all the time?
Why? Why is Peter Pan flying all the time?
He never lands.
Ah, nice.
The
Nice.
joke that my daughter texted to Monsters Inc. Laugh for, and they used
Did it really?
they used her joke.
That's awesome.
In the
You
middle
know,
of
I don't have a joke for you guys, but I probably told you guys before, but I have a friend that's a pirate, and Black Bart. And I saw Black Bart the other day for the first time in a long time, and he looked terrible. And I said, "Hey, what happened?" He said, "Arr, we boarded a ship not too long ago, and a cannonball blew off my leg. That's why I have a peg leg." I said, "Oh, that's terrible. Well, what about your hand?" And he said, "Arr, in the same fight, I got my hand cut off, and so I've got a hook now." I said, "Oh, that's terrible." And I said, "What about your eye?" And he said, "Well, right at that moment," actually, he said, "Arr, at that moment, I looked up and a bird was flying over and pooped in my eye." And I said, "But then why the eye patch?" He said, "First day with me hook." I'm sorry.
Oh, that was funny.
We are too.
Hey, just again, Audrey, I want to thank you so much for being on the show. Made it so much more fun. Great information. Inspired me. I'm not going to go back to college, but inspired me to, make sure my daughter knows about this, because what a great opportunity. It's what great experiences you had from it. I just want to remind our listeners, first of all, thank you so much for listening. Don't know why you're here, but thank you so much. We enjoyed it. We're having fun. 5-star reviews. We appreciate it. If you have anything bad to say, you can email Lonnie, message Lonnie on the Facebook page. It's probably his fault. If you have any suggestions, please let us know for topics. Any ideas, any critique, any feedback, we'd love to hear. Thank you again for just coming along with us on this journey. It's a lot of fun for us, and we hope it's fun for you. Without any further ado, thank you again. Good night, everybody.
Kwaherini, everybody.
Kwaherini.
See you later.
Bye, friends.